Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope your Valentine's Day was very special and that you spent it with the people that you love. So, my name is Antoinette. I am the creator and host of Parenting After Dark. This is my podcast where I come on to just share with parents some things that can help parenting be easier, but at the same time, to talk about the struggles of parenting. Specifically, we're talking about parenting teens. Yes, the teens. Wonderful people, a lot of energy. They love life, right? Their way. But being a parent of a teen can be very, very challenging at times. And then at other times, it can be good. It can go either way. But needless to say, there is that period where you're just going up and down, you're hitting it, missing it. You're not really liking them a lot. You're not liking what they do. You're not liking how they think, how they move in the world, how they operate. You're getting phone calls from the teachers. Their rooms look like whirlwind tornadoes hit them. I mean, I can go on and on with that list, right? But let me tell you, all of that developmentally is okay. It is, they are allowed that time because they are emerging, approaching, going into adulthood. And so we want to give them that grace. We want to give them the slack to make the wrong moves and help them to recover and to become more resilient, right? And so that's a challenge because 90% of the time they don't listen and they really don't want to listen, a lot of times to adults, period, because again, developmentally, they are coming into their own person. They feel that their thoughts and opinions and ideals are, you know, top of the line. They go through that period of invincibility where they can't be hurt, so they do a lot of risky behavior. Okay, and again, all of that is normal. But what I want to do, starting this new series, this is episode 2 of Heart Talks, is really talk to parents, you as a parent of a teen, to help navigate the relationship, to not even navigate, but to help really build a connection, a stronger connection, to help improve the communication between the two, and just give you some support and to help parents to just understand what's going on and how you can do things a little differently perhaps with your teen. Ideally and wholeheartedly, they do love us, right? Our children love us. It's just, this is just the time period where it's that natural breaking away, autonomy. I want to live my life. I have my own values and beliefs. I don't want to do this or I don't believe that. And so it's really a struggle. But tonight I want to continue from my last episode last week Sunday when I started talking about heart talks. I want to talk about that connection. So when we have children initially at that moment of birth, if you notice, they immediately put the baby on the mother's chest, right? That is a very pivotal, most crucial and important moment of bonding. The baby has been growing inside the mother, and so they know the mother's voice, heartbeat, her scent, and all of that. So as soon as the baby come out, they place the baby on the chest to begin that bonding outside. And it's very soothing, it's very comforting, both for the mother and the child. And there's a lot that goes on in that moment. And in the moments to come, in the months to come, there's a lot that happens with that bonding. If she decides to breastfeed, there's a lot of connection there. There's a lot of, you know, good things that are happening emotionally, mentally, physically for the baby and for mom. So it's really like God's way of just, connecting us to our children, and, that maternal instinct, and all like that. And for dads as well, right? For dads as well. As time grows on, your child grows along, that connection is still there. And so by the time they become teens, it's still there. But so much has happened maybe in their life, so much they may have experienced, and it could be a variety of things. But that connection is still there, but it's a little different. And so a lot of times, I know for me as a parent, I freaked out, because, like I had said last week, I know what I thought as a teen, I know what I felt as a teen. I had a boyfriend, I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And that's just typical teen behavior, teen thinking. But the other side of that is that my connection with my mother and father was there, but they were very spiritual. And so, like, I didn't feel comfortable really talking about sex and having feelings, and I didn't feel comfortable talking about, other things, because I just thought, like, they're going to tell me all about the Bible, and I didn't want to hear that, right? Um, and in my teen mind, I respected God, but I didn't see the practical side of having a relationship with God. And so by the time I had my daughter, I wanted to be different. And so that part in my approach during that time of her being a teenager was to, to let her know that I was open to having any conversation, right? I did it in the very corny mom way, I think, but she understood what I meant. And so we would go out to dinner or do different things. And I wanted to be open, which I was. And she knew that I was, because eventually we got to that point where she understood, like, okay, mom wants to be open. She wants me to, if I have questions or anything. That connection was there. But my insecurity and things about it was like, okay, what if she asked me this? Am I going to really be honest with her? And I had those internal struggles because I wasn't sure if she was ready, right? And that's one big concern. We're not sure if our kids are ready, but we have to respect where they are. And they may be feeling ready for certain things. They may be feeling ready to have sex. They may be feeling ready to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They may be exploring their sexuality. And so that can be a little scary, because if you're not really aware and you're not really sure where they are, having a conversation about, maybe I'm attracted to a boy or maybe I'm attracted to another girl can be very hard. Maybe I don't want to go to college, right? I freaked out a little bit about that. I was like, okay, what is she going to do? You can't be, you can be a cashier all your life, but you're not going to really have the quality of life, because you won't be economically at a place. And that was my belief. And so I had, my insecurity about that. I had insecurity about, if she didn't know what she wanted to do, if she didn't, have any ideas, what was I going to do? Because in my mind, I was pushing that, okay, you got to go to college, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so I had this, um, anxiety about all of these things. And I was like, I got to be cool, because I didn't want it to become a situation where she sees me freaking out and then she totally shuts down. Like, I didn't want that. And so I had to really get a hold of my emotions. I had to really get a hold of everything, because, there is a time where they may experiment doing certain things. I experiment. And so it was like, what do I do? How do I tell her about the boys that are not really good? And it was all of these things. And what I didn't realize at that time was that, we had a connection, and she loves me. She respected me. So she respected what I had to say and how I felt. But more importantly, what I didn't realize so much. I knew, but I really hadn't gotten that revelation, was that she was watching me and how I lived my life. So it wasn't just about going to church and praising God. It was like, what are you really doing every day, Monday through Saturday? That's what she took notice of. And I didn't know this until later on, and she told me. She was like, Mom, I saw what you did, and I saw how you lived, how you helped people, how you ministered to people, how you engaged people. And so that for her was important. It was meaningful because I wasn't just sharing with her or telling her what to do. I was living my life the way I was, you know, providing, that support for her, you know, teaching for her, loving her, right? So she saw it in action. And so that made it easier. And at some point she was like, Mom, you know, I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not doing anything. She was transparent with me, and it was a relief, but I was like, okay, what if that day comes? And so I wound up really having life talks with her and allowing her to ask questions or to, you know, if she had thoughts about things, I wanted to talk about it. If she didn't want to talk about it, I was fine with it. And so it was bumpy, and then eventually it smoothed out because I got a hold of my thoughts, right? And I realized, you know what, a lot of stuff that I did as a teenager was just out of curiosity. It wasn't life changing in that sense. And so it helped me to kind of navigate, when it came to her, like, okay, whatever you might think about or whatever, if you're not sure, you can ask me, you can go to somebody in your school. She had very good relationships with a lot of her teachers, guidance counselors, and things like that. And so she had a wealth of people that she can go to. I think in her school they had a school based health clinic as well. So that was a resource, you know what I'm saying, in terms of if there were things, that she wanted to talk about in terms of sexuality or sexual health education, she had that as a resource as well. But for the most part, I didn't really realize how strong our connection was until again later on. And so, what I realized later on is that I had been building that connection since birth and being loving and supportive and caring since birth. And so, when the teen years came, it was the same thing. I just thought that, now that she's older and she has a little more freedom, and she's going into adulthood, she might, have different thoughts about stuff and, might not want to share it with me. And I'm left out in the dark. And, you get that phone call or you get a letter or, you get that, you see that pamphlet on the desk in their room and you're like, oh my God, it was all good. So I wanted to talk about that tonight in terms of, just capitalizing on that connection. Now, if there's been things that have happened in your relationship with your children, you got to deal with that, right? You got to really talk about that because a part of that connection, you need to be able to have communication that is not really connected to anything. Like there's no resentment, there's no unforgiveness, things like that. And so you just want to begin to capitalize on that by spending quality time. Now, quality time, it can be hard. One, like I said, if that connection is not really strong and there's been things that have happened in the past, and so you or your teens might not really feel comfortable, but spending the quality time is essential. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be at least an hour. Maybe you set aside an hour a week to connect with them. Just talk and have a conversation. It's not about grades. It's not about the teacher calling. It's not about, what they may have experienced that you learned about through other methods. It's not about any, it's about surely just having conversation, connect with them, finding out what they're interested in, finding out, you know, what do they think about our new president, right? It can be anything, but it's spending that quality time where you're doing more listening than talking, right? And so it can be an hour. You can have a date night. I did date nights quite often where we just went out to dinner and we just talked. And it was hard, like I said initially, I mentioned last week, it was hard because she would be on her phone, but what I didn't realize is that was something that was kind of new for us. Being a single mom, we lived together. So maybe date night, it wasn't like any other night we would have dinner or whatever. But I wanted this to feel more special. So I went outside of the house. And this is, how I did it, and we would do it. We would just talk or eat or whatever. And it was interesting. One night I remember we went out to dinner, we left the restaurant, and we were walking back to the train, and she grabs my hand to hold my hand, and I was like, wow. Now I have to admit, I felt a little awkward because I was like, okay, I did. I had that parent moment. It was like, she's holding my hand, like she hasn't done that since she was a little girl. But I felt happy. I felt like spending this time and having this regular date night really bumped up our relationship. And so, it took a while, but I mean, like, it became a norm. And we would laugh and joke on the train and whatever. And by the end of the night, it was just like, wow, it was a great night, right? Just spending that little bit of time with her. And it wasn't even really every day of the week. I mean, once a week because I couldn't afford that. But maybe twice a month, I for sure we went out, and it would be really great, you know. And so I learned from that moment, like, okay, I can take a breath. It's not. I shouldn't be on Mach 10 because of what I think or believe or what I saw, but it's just about having a simple conversation, okay? Simple conversation about anything. Focus on their interests. One of the things that I didn't know was her interest in music to a certain degree. And so she listened to, well, she heard me play some of my old jams, right? So she had that 70s, 80s, you know, um, 90s, you know, playlist. But she had her music as well. And some of her music, it was totally different. Like, she listened to artists and people that I didn't know. And so I made myself available to, listen to them and listen to the lyrics and really find out what resonated with her. And I was surprised, but also I was like, wow, some of it was really nice. Some of it was really cool. And you would be surprised how deeply, our teens really think about life and love and all these type of things because that music, is a powerful tool and instrument, and it's that's obvious in the industry. If you look at the industry, how the impact of music on the teens today. And so just listening to some of her playlists and her artists and sharing with me some of it, I was like, okay, but others, it was really interesting, and I was glad that she shared that with me. And I didn't have too much to say about it because it was her music. So when you're building that connection, it's really not about sharing your thoughts as in approval, but it's more like, wow, that's interesting, tell me about this song, how did you learn about it? And you're really getting their feedback and their thoughts on it. So it's not about, oh, that's a bad song. It's about, tell me why you like that song. What is it about that song? You know, and you can start it from there. And believe it, it's little things like that that sends that message. Like, mom is really interested. Dad is really interested. He really takes an interest in my music and who I am, without judgment, without criticism, without the side eye or the size and all that other stuff. Because we can go there, right? And so you want to take advantage of those moments. You want to take advantage of, TV shows that they like, find out what they are, watch some with them, and let them tell you and let them give you, the real deal on the characters or whatever. And it's little things like that that builds that connection. And it's the best thing in the world to feel heard, to feel somebody who is listening to you because they are interested and they want to listen to you, and to feel heard and to feel understood. It's very, very powerful. And I just want to make a couple of other points, and then I'll continue next week. But the goal of this connection is we're not trying to be friends with our kids. I honestly do not believe that that is something you want to do. You can be friendly, but you're not trying to be your kid's friend. Period. You're the parent, they're the child, and so there needs to be that boundary. Now, they can feel comfortable with you like a friend. They can feel like I can share things with mom or dad, right? But you're not their friend. And I think that's important to kind of keep that boundary established. You're not being critical and judgmental. You're not trying to find out information so that you can talk to them about how to prevent this. That's not what this is. This is just building and respecting them as emerging adults, finding out what they like. They may come and ask at some point, what do you think about this? And that really may not be them asking what do you think, as much as it is them trying to find out what your thoughts on it is. And that'll let them know how deep they can go, right? How much they can really be open with you. And so you just want to say, well, you know what? Whatever your thoughts is about the subject, be honest. I cannot tell you how important that is, to be honest with your teens. They can sniff out and they know fake. Okay, they know uh, when you're not being authentic, when you're not being real. They know when you don't really care. You have to remember they know you. Our kids know us. If they live with us all their lives from 0 to now 15, 16, 17, they know us. They know us really well. That's how they know when to ask for money. They know the faces to make, the eyes to give. They know us. So if you're fake, if you're not really being honest, if you really don't care, they know it. And so it's not about being perfect. It's not about always having the perfect response. No, it's about just being real. And if you're not in the mood, say, listen, I'm not in the mood right now. Can we talk tomorrow? If it's something that's really dire and they're like, Mom, I really got to talk to you, Dad, do you have like 5 minutes? Just make the time. You know what I'm saying? Make the time, because you don't know what it is, right? And you want to be that support. Okay. And then the last thing I just want to talk about is, you know, in building this connection, you want to discover what's interesting to them. And you want to find that out through observation, through seeing the things that they do. I don't believe parents should breach certain boundaries of privacy, but I'm not going to say too much on that. I can just share my story. I didn't go in my daughter's room, I didn't look for stuff. If I went in to talk to her, whatever, and she had things out or whatever, and I happened to glance, it's like that was it. But I didn't go intentionally looking and seeking. Because I was a single mom, she had to be a latchkey kid very early. So she had a phone in elementary school. And so she had had a phone for years. And it was something that she needed because I need to know, when she got home or whatever. And, I need to know that if she needed me and, for any reason that, we can connect and I can get to her or whatever. So there was a certain amount of trust that I extended to her because of that. And so I just, I never went past a certain point with her when it came to her room. It was like, that's her room. And I allowed her to have her privacy, and I allowed her to close her door and do all these things that I see sometimes parents have a time with. And I get it. Like if there's a discipline issue, maybe if they're having company, there, yeah, there's boundaries, and this is what you need to do, right? Because it's a matter of respect and respecting the home. So I get that. But I just wanted to, say discover their interests, observe the music they listen to, the type of clothes that they wear, just pay attention to them, you know, offer compliments, get their thoughts on the outfit, like really include them in your life, include them in family decisions about certain things. And the last thing I want to just point out is don't have any expectation. Um, that's something that, you know, you don't have to have, don't have any expectation with them. Don't think that because you spend time with them and maybe you've bought gifts, or, you've been doing this 2 or 3 months, that they should just be an open book, or they're not telling me anything and I feel like this is not really working, and the behavior that they're displaying maybe in school or whatever is still the same. Don't have that expectation. The only thing you need to be concerned with is showing them love and being there and being a support. Letting them know no matter what happens, I love you. Unconditional love is wonderful, but it's not always easy. And unfortunately, a lot of kids have learned that if I do certain things, my parents would be proud of me. They would, be happy for me, and I will make them happy. But that's not unconditional love. Unconditional love is I love you. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. But I love you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to be there for you and mean it. And so that expectation should be basically nothing. You're just being there, you're hanging out, you're getting to know them. And when they're ready, they'll take it to the next level. If not, it's okay. And you have to be okay with that. Freaking out, doing certain things to kind of indicate that you're not happy or you want more, I would not recommend. I would recommend that you actually plan time to be with them. Let them pick the movie, let them pick a concert or whatever it is, and then go from there. And just be consistent. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. Be consistent in whatever you're doing, whatever the quality time that you're spending. If it's an hour a week, every 2 weeks, or whatever it is, be consistent in that. So that's all I have for you tonight. Next week we'll pick up. I want to talk about some other things, so we're going to get a little deeper every week. Because, like I said, this is a time now that, you know what, that connection, our parenting has to change because the world has changed significantly, and we need to prepare our children for life ahead. And how we do that is how they relate to us and how we relate to them. That's what healthy relationships are. Is there's respect, is there's trust, there's good communication, okay, honesty, right? And so they learn by interacting with us how to interact with others. How we pay our bills, they pay their bills, right? And they're like, well, mom used to rob Peter to pay Paul. I guess that's something that I can do, right? But we actually want them to do better and to be better in a lot of the things that they do and the choices that they make. So I hope that you really got something out of this. If you have questions, if you want to share maybe things that worked for you as a teen, as a parent of a teen, you can email me at the number one parenting after dark at gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you next week live right here at 8 p.m. on YouTube at Parenting After Dark. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great week.